Hello, this is Claudia Johnson, and with me are Bart, Errol, and Mark Lauritsen from Capstone, and also Rafael, who is part of the LHI Pro Bono Net team. And this is our annual listening call for the online LawHelp Interactive community. We're just gonna quickly run through some announcements. The focus of the call is really to hear from you on enhancements and improvements that we can do to LHI, either on the technology stack or on how we provide support and assistance to projects that are starting or looking to move their projects to the next stage. So it's that's what we want to focus on. So let me run through the introduction real fast, and then we'll get to hopefully have a good conversation. And since the group is small, I'll unmute everyone when we get there. So first of all, as usual, the call will be recorded for those who can't join. I am happy to stop recording when we get into the conversation. If people give me thoughts on that in the chat, because I don't want people to feel, that you have to have a perfect idea to propose to us. It's something that you can raise, and then we can reach out and refine it with you a little bit more. But if not recording that helps, I'll be happy to do that. So updates and announcements is what we're going to cover. What we've been working on the system, just flag some things that we release and some which are still, we want to hear feedback because they may still be in beta even though we tested them, and just to see how they're working for your workflows. And then we're going to get into the main topic, which is enhancements and better support in 2020. Okay. So for updates and announcements, the reports are here. Utilization continues to trend up, which is testament of all your hard work in all aspects of the online forms. We made a new report available, which is the average length of an interview. This may be helpful information to show your users before they come to the interview or when they start the interview, so that they can budget their time, and also to encourage them to create accounts for the longer interviews so that they don't lose their work if they don't show. And we've added new general points to the general stats, like total unique number of completed interviews. We're trying to get more granular. So take a look at those, and if you have questions on how to interpret them, reach out to me or Miranda, and we can work with you on those. And again, the top 5 continue to be similar, except that now we have Washington State as a top 5 state, replacing some of the prior states. Updates, there's a lot going on between now and the beginning of next year. We are doing our live training for in-person developer training in January at the ITC conference on the Monday the 13th and the 14th. Please register. We still have spots, and we're gonna do a beginner training and an advanced training. So we have those two options. The advanced training is on Tuesday the 14th in the morning. The other thing is that on the 5th, Mark Lauritsen is going to guide us through a conversation on creating interviews that are transactional, that help through time. And that's going to be the last call of December, and that's on the 5th at 2 p.m. The other announcement, a lot of you probably already know, or maybe even going, are that in Portland, there's going to be the ITC convening that's done by LSC. LHI is going to be there, so hopefully if you're not coming to the trainings or workshops, we can catch up and meet on the hallway. It's always really fun to touch base with everyone. And then the SRLN conference is happening this year. That's the Self-Represented Litigant Network Conference on March 5th, and some of us are going to be there presenting. So it's open, and they're accepting registrations, I think. And in May, there's the Equal Justice Conference, and the registration is going to be opening soon. So lots of opportunities to network and share your projects, but also learn from others. In terms of what we just pushed on the 6th, we fixed a problem with the LHI Connect multiple document assembly functionality, so that's fixed now. We did some updates to the find form pages linked to some states that had the wrong URL. So if your state has changed their staging pages, send us an email and we can change that in find forms to make people get to your forms easier. We updated the hot dogs navigation language like we had shared before into plain language, and hopefully that's going to make it easier for users to access the help and all of that. The publish forward is one feature that came out of a call like this about 2-3 years ago, and we have finally pushed it. It is in beta because you may work with this in many different ways that we didn't think about. So if you use it, make sure that you back everything up. And if you have a question on the functionality or want to make a comment, we really want to hear from you, because it's completely new and you may be thinking about using it in ways that we didn't think as we were writing the requirements. So let us know how that's working out for you and if you have suggestions, because we're willing to review that. We also did an improvement on our e-filing project with California, with Journal. And then as developers, you probably saw that when you log in as a developer, you have access to a report tag that gives you a variety of reports that are connected to that account. So that makes it easier for you to find your data on the interviews that you upload. Okay, so these are some of the things that we heard last November, and they're updates that we have completed this year. And I'm not gonna get into all of them, but you know, we try to take this call seriously, and if there are features that people raise and we hear that others will be interested in them, then we try to put them into our workflow depending on how big the project is and the resources that we have. But you know, the reports, we've been working on that hard. Miranda has been leading that with Simon, and we've improved reports significantly and let you have more access to them directly without having to go through us. We liberalize email through anonymous for anonymous users, and that has led to a significant increase. Email is like a big state, equivalent to a big state in terms of usage of email. The email is non-secure in LHI, so hopefully everybody's telling that to those that encourage to use it. We've changed form feedback. We did the publish forward. That was a big ticket item. We're still hoping to hear from you. We did change the navigation in hot dogs interviews. We had a request to add French and Polish, and we did that. So hopefully some of you who work with these communities can create interviews in those languages. We integrated a developer resource center into single sign-on for developers so that you don't have to go to probono.net LHI to find developer content. And we did some enhancements on WCAG and accessibility standards. Since November, we also changed other things in LHI. I will pause and let you look at this. I don't want to read them all. But hopefully some of these enhancements have made it easier for you and reduce the pain for your users in using the system. So before we jump into the fun part, just some of the things that we are thinking is that we need to, that as a platform, we can do some things that will minimize what you have to do on your individual form projects. And so these are some of the areas that we'll be looking at, and I think that we already shared that in the call of last month. In terms of scope, we all are aware that these guidelines don't apply to courts and they don't apply to attorney forms. So like if you're creating forms for your staff, you may not necessarily want to comply. Regardless of that, these are good guidelines. They're kind of best practices. So even if you are not a covered type of developer, we do encourage you to look at this and think about how you can make some of this clearer for your users. So for example, you know, some of these, if your form doesn't cover a specific county, you may want to upfront that as much as you can. or if a particular court is not accepting that form, you may want to bring that out to the surface if you know, or if a court contacts you, you may want to mark that up on your staging page while you update the form. The other thing is, you may want to let people know when you're updating a form if your form is not working or it's in a not supported software like an A2J form, A2J4 form. You may want to put your users a note in your web page telling them that you're going to be updating it later on. So these are some of the things, and we're going to be thinking about how do we surface who owns the form and how to contact that group, because that's one of the recommendations that they have. So like point 14, notify the legal name and address of the group to serve. And the other thing, since these really go to quality, one of the things that we're gonna do is make it more prominent when the form was updated by the owner, but also we may start taking action on deleting forms that have not been used. And we can talk about it, get feedback on that, because it's something that we had talked about before, but we haven't implemented. So I am going to transition to Mark, who is gonna lead our discussion on pain relief ideas for 2020. So we wanna hear about pain points in creating and managing an LHI power project, but also the pain points for your users as they use the forms that you create. What are pain points that you're aware of and things that you think we could do from here to help support you? So I'm going to transition the screen to Mark, who will be taking the notes in a collective way. And I'm gonna unmute everyone. Okay.
All right.
So I'm unmuting folks, so put yourself on mute, but we do wanna make this a conversation. And if anybody doesn't want this part recorded, let me know and I'll stop recording it. I didn't see anything on the chat about that.
Okay. Not highly sensitive. Hey guys, so I'm just going to be a note taker pretty much and try to stimulate some conversation. You're seeing my screen, I assume, and we've had these kind of calls now for at least 2 years, and surprisingly, we come up with ideas that actually get implemented. So I went through a similar document from our last year's conversation, and I deleted a bunch of things that are now functional. So there's a good chance, if it's a good idea and it's practical, we can actually make it happen in 2020. And with that, I'm just going to say the idea is to have an open conversation. What features or behaviors or practices or activities would you like to see that would make either your life as a contributor or end users' lives as users better in relation to LHI? And don't be shy. Somebody wants to jump in. If you got a pet thing you'd like to suggest, I'll put it on the list, and we'll just try to get a bunch on the table. I've left a number from prior years here just in case we run out of ideas. But I want to look for fresh things that you would love to see. In relation to LHI, what would make it even better?
Hi, Mark. This is Sun.
Hey, Sun.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you. What's your idea?
So one of the biggest complaints we get is trying to access a saved answer. So, and maybe it's just the way this one program is. I designed this one program, but basically a person needs to go through it twice because there are 2 sets of papers that are filed at different times depending on what had happened. And so for whatever reason, they can log in to LHI, but they can't find their saved answers. And I'm wondering, maybe it's because the saved answer tab and the is maybe too small, or or maybe it's because everything gets pushed down. So when I asked a help center clerk, you know, what's going on, they say more often than not is that they can't see the saved answer because it's just not there. So it's not from here, not from this screen, but you know, when you're logged in and you go to a program and they're like, and it says, do you want to start new, or do you want to use a saved answer?
Right.
It's at that screen, or maybe it's because, so I try shortening the description for the program so that it would bring everything up a little bit so that the saved answer list can actually be seen.
Yep.
And I don't know if that helped, but it's, yeah, I don't know. Like, I know what they're talking about, because when I go through it,
Yeah.
so when you're logged in and you go into a program for the first time, it goes, do you want to get started, or do you just want to, you know, whatever? And it's just, I can't seem to get them to scroll down. I can't get them to scroll down. So I don't know what to do about that. I've considered adding additional instructions. Right. So it's from this screen where if you go down. Yeah, it's I don't know if they can't, is saved answer too small? It's I don't know what it is. So right now at this point, it's more like they don't even see that saved answer section. All they see is bright, if they see blue and they see green, and then they see descriptions of stuff, which pushes everything down even more. Okay. So I've been told that, you know, if they scroll down, it's there. Like, they saved it the last time. And so, you know, that would be helpful. I don't know how to fix it though. I don't know what I like. So I've considered adding additional instructions to my printed instructions to help them find it, or because this is different than them just not knowing their password or their account. So
cool. I think I've captured that. Good, Claudia.
Sorry, I was gonna ask if you have a lot of mobile users. Do you know?
Probably not, only because of the nature of the divorce program is you need so much crap with you to actually fill out anything. I'll look at the statistics to see what it is, but most users are using it in court help centers or in law libraries.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, that's very helpful to know that they're not getting.
Hello everyone, this is Rafael here. I would like to add to what Son is reporting, because I do get plenty of the same kind of reports, not just from your interviews, but from any interview. And sometimes it's difficult to, like Son has been explaining, to find out exactly what is the problem, because not much information is provided. But I have had feedback from people who have been trying to find their safe answers. They are on their safe answers page. They can scroll down the page, but they just don't see anything. I believe part of the problem is that the workflow is not clear in regards to how to go about saving your answers. And most of the time, it happens, at least in the day-to-day interviews, where you have to do a couple of clicks at the end of the interview, usually when you're allowed to save, since not all interviews allow you to save in the interim. You have to click on exit and save, but then you are taken to another screen where, in order for you to actually save your answers, you have to click on one of the big buttons where you have the options to read your answers or save them or email them. Not everybody is aware of that, so it's not quite straightforward. And I believe it is more of a workflow issue rather than the inability that they have to say. So it's not straightforward. It's something that we should be reviewing to see if we can improve the workflow and make it more clear and straightforward for people to save.
Would it be possible to actually have them, like, is it like automatic saving a possibility? Or is it just like once you click on, you know, process form, could it automatically, oh yeah, that.
Right.
Well, we do have that.
We don't encourage people to sign up for LHI accounts, except for using this one program. Like everywhere, most of the other programs can be done in less than 10 minutes. You're probably not going to want to return to it because, you know, whatever the situation, the child support situation changed or whatever, it's not going to kill you to put in, you know, your kid's name again. But this one program, I want them to save their answers. I want them to have that, because then they could get through a 20-minute thing in less than 5 minutes the second time then that they come for their set of papers.
So, Sonny, you're suggesting maybe if we let the developers say for this interview, force a login?
No, don't let them, like, because you don't have to have a login to actually use this, at least this program. I encourage it though. Like I have help center people encourage it, but they don't have to use it. But a lot of it often is there are too many, people have too many logins and people have too many whatever. But if they actually have the, wherewithal to actually sign up for something, I want them to use their answer file. Also, can we change the name of answer file so that it has the name of the program on it? Because right now, unless I know to change it, I don't know if this one is for one program or for another program.
Because right now, when you create an answer set, it just comes with this long.
Yeah, it has my name in it, which is great, but I know my name.
Yeah. That seems promising and doable. Like, I'll put it on the list, but I think I got the idea. So basically, have the file name be based upon the program you just came from, the interview you just came from.
Right.
But on the save as you go concept, we did have that comment before.
Yes.
And we didn't do it this year. And one of the things that we wanted to puzzle with is anonymous users would. Right. Since they don't have an account, they have not agreed to have their stuff saved. So just trying to figure out how to stay true to what we tell people we do or don't do with their data, right? Because we tell anonymous users that our data retention is like 2 hours after the interview. We're going to start deleting stuff from our back end. So how do we handle that tension? If they do we keep it? If they come within the 2 hours, they're good, but after the 2 hours, they're out of luck. Because we could do it just for the people that agreed. And I gotta say that since most states are putting out really long interviews and are encouraging people to save, the percentage of people who are saving now has significantly increased. And the percentage of anonymous users has decreased. That came out in our evaluation, that it worked. Our move to encourage people to save so that they don't lose their work. So any thoughts on the autosave from anyone or Sun? Is that kind of what you were suggesting?
I don't really have any feelings about autosave. Most of the programs we have are really short. Like you could get through it probably in 10 or 15 minutes, and you probably don't want to keep those answers. But for the longer interviews, it doesn't bother me that, or maybe it's because I just haven't been watching them, and like I haven't been watching users enough to see whether or not they can finish going through a program, get their document, and know to sign up for an account to save their answers. On the other hand, if they're mid-program, it might be a different thing as well. I don't know.
It's really, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it is like I need to go and just watch them, and I don't have time to just go and watch them anymore.
Yeah. Okay, let me just keep the conversation going. We're not going to get deep into any of these, but let's get some more ideas. Other folks have got sort of pet suggestions, things you'd like to see, or issues you'd like us to try to tackle.
Hi, this is Melody. I actually want to go back to the autosave question with Claudia.
Yes.
So for my program, right now, there's a lot of pro bono users that are still learning how to navigate it. Some of them may be not as familiar with using such a platform in the sort of ways that LHI allow us to do so now. And sometimes people get redirected and they instantly hope that there's a save as you go type of option or a way to recover a document that they've been working on. If the browser accidentally closed out, or just them trying to navigate it themselves, there's issues that are encountered. And I know the users for my program would prefer that sort of option.
Right. So if you accidentally leave or close your browser or something, you come back, you can recover somehow where you were.
Yep.
Okay.
And do your users care if they're anonymous? If we are auto saving, or are all your lawyers, are your pro bono lawyers, are they all signing in?
They're signing into our platform, so they.
Okay, got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's very helpful.
Yeah, that's a good rationale for trying to support it.
Yeah, I think for pro bono lawyers, it could be helpful. So I see Lori Garber has her hand up. I unmuted her. Lori, I unmuted you.
Oh, thank you. Great. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I really just wanted to second the autosave request. And I think if it's possible to set it up so that people who are who are anonymous users are not auto-saving and people who are logged in are auto-saving, and if we had a way to tell, because I think right now we don't have a way to detect whether or not someone is logged in, because at one point I was trying to fine-tune my instructions based on whether someone was logged in or not, and realized that we didn't have any way to know that. We knew if someone was using saved answers, but not if they were logged in. So, you may need to be able to figure that out before you could customize what the saving behavior based on logged in or not. But it seems reasonable to me that if you're an anonymous user, you're not going to get auto saving because you're trying not to save at all. But if you have logged in, that the auto save happen. I do think that people have been conditioned to expect auto saving with most of the programs they use these days.
Lori, one idea I heard there was just sort of some mechanism so that the template developer can do things depending upon whether the user is logged in.
Yes, yeah. I think, or at least that would have been helpful. Would have been helpful for me in some of the ways that I was guiding the users, because we push the save your answers very strongly with the interviews in Washington, because most of them are quite long, and we're anticipating multi-step, that the user would be coming back. The other thing I wanted to second was
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Where were you looking for, how were you trying to figure out if they're logged in or not? Because the way the system does it is when you log in, it puts your name under the little person icon. So the user knows, but
yeah,
we don't give that information to owners. So just wondering where you were trying to figure that out, if it was when you were doing user testing or you were observing.
No, it was actually it was in the dynamic instructions that we were giving people in the interview, because we wanted to encourage people that if they had saved answers to go get them, and we wanted to encourage people to save their answers. So it's in the text of our welcome page where we're trying to encourage people to save their answers and to go get saved answers if they have them. And we realized that, if people aren't even logged in, this is all irrelevant. You need to start there. So it would have been helpful to know, because we're also telling people to click on that save button, but that save button doesn't appear if they're not logged in. So that instruction doesn't make sense. So that's why one of the reasons it would have been helpful to know. So with a report,
is this, could I be hearing
a
request
for a
report?
No, it's not a report at all. It's within the interview to have the developer have some way of detecting if the user is logged in at that during the interview or not, in the functionality of the interview on the back end.
Right, I can quickly show Lori how we have to deal with it now, which is we have to ask the user, right? Do they see a save button?
We ask them. This is our workaround, is that we actually ask the user, do you see a save button? And if they don't see a save button, we're like, hey, you may want to log in. Then you can save. Wouldn't that be great? The other thing, though, is that one of the reasons that we had this instruction in our welcome page is because we wanted to guide people through getting a saved answer. And so I also really second that first suggestion about making it easier for people to find and load their saved answers. And I think if it's possible, one solution to that would be in that green bar, right next to get started, you can have two choices there, get started or load my saved answers.
Your answer. That's a good one. Yeah.
So here's where we're asking people, do you see?
Okay, sorry. Keep jumping around. Yeah, here's where.
I know. I was talking about two different things.
Yeah, this is because we don't know. The interview doesn't, there's no way the interview knows if the user is logged in. So we have to sort of say, hey, do you see a save button? If you do, you're logged in. If you don't, you're not, right? And we can.
Right. And we warn them right there, this program does not save your answers automatically, because I worry that people are expecting that.
Yeah. So I'm just going to capture your thought, Lori, about one way to provide easier access to saved answers is to put the link to saved answers right in the same line. In
that green, green horizontal banner or whatever row with at the same level as the get started.
Right. Okay. I will try to capture.
Okay. So I see that Michael has a question on hand raised, so I'm gonna unmute him. Michael, you're unmuted.
Thanks, Claudia. Yeah, so the other thing with saving answers that would be helpful is putting it in, like adding the ability to edit the descriptions, right? So as a volunteer attorney, I can see a couple of them, but sometimes I didn't save it very well. And so in addition to like putting in what putting the interview name in the save file name, but also the ability to come back later and say, oh, this was the interview for so-and-so in the description box would be helpful. Because right now the interview, that description field is static and I can't change it.
Yeah, so you mean in the My Answers context, the saved answers page, for instance? Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like to be able to go back and say, oh, right, this was so-and-so. Let me make that clearer so that I know for next time.
Right. Right now, I think you have to rerun the interview, then you can get a chance to change the description.
Right. So if there was just another button on the right side that said, hey, edit the, like either edit the file name, edit the description or something like that.
Right.
So that was one thing. The other thing is it would be great if there was sort of like a reserved variable name that would be available outside the interview. So, for example, if I want to email a copy to someone of the document that we're creating, right, and I could set like the variable of like send final email TE or something like that, and that populated the email this document feature at the end, so then the client doesn't have to re-enter it and figure out what they meant.
Right. So you sort of want to be able to pre-populate some behavior outside of the interview based on an answer to a question.
Right.
Okay. Is that the only situation, Matt, you can think of that, or some other reserved variable name? Sort of this idea of having contents of the answer set available to the broader LHI experience.
I could easily also see it being useful in terms of like the default answer file name, right? That as a volunteer, it's going to automatically put the answer file as my name, but I might want the description to include the client's name as opposed to my name.
Interesting. Okay. Anyone else want to speak to that or something different? definitely room for improvement on the whole saved answer experience and the naming and ability of answer set names and descriptions, and the usability of some of that, the users typing outside of the interview.
I want to clarify something with Michael. Michael, the reserved variable name would be for the end user, right? So the user would put it in the interview, and then LHI would look for
Right.
it, uncrypt it, and then stick it in the email functionality.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, like when I'm using DocAssemble, I can say, right, this final document is going to get emailed to email recipient, and I can't do the same thing if I'm in LHI. Right, I have to retype that email address.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea.
It's probably lots
I
of good
see.
ideas.
Yeah, I saw that Eduardo had a question. Eduardo Gonzalez. Eduardo, are you muted?
There.
Hey.
I don't specifically use LHI, but on the question of like the auto saving, I'm not too sure on the back end as much, so I figured I would ask it in the chat. But if it's possible to create a save file that then somebody saves on their local device and then is able to upload the answers later, that might solve the anonymity issue and possibly that pro bono comment that came up earlier.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So maybe let me just make that a separate line, but sort of provide a download of answer sets for saving locally.
Yeah. That way, if somebody does want to go back or just wants to have those answers without it being saved anywhere, they can always just upload them later and then continue where they left off.
Okay. That's a good, yeah. I mean, there's two ideas there. One is download, one is upload. We presently allow download of answer sets, but only for developers. We don't let end users download an answer set, but this is the idea, is to store it locally and then upload it later. Optionally upload it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. I saw somebody else. Thank you, Eduardo. Matt had his hand raised.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Hi. Thanks for doing this call again. I'd like to echo pretty much everything that's been said. I think greater interactivity between the interview program and LHI, both at the beginning and at the end of the interview, will greatly improve the experience. So we can do some of the things that have been discussed already. I also want to voice my support for the save as you go option. There's a few ways we can do it here, but I agree with Lori that the current expectation is that the program is going to keep track of things so that you don't need to worry about saving or losing your work as much. I know that gets into some, there's some challenges if you do anonymous use, but we could do what has been done right now, which is just letting people know it's not saving as you go unless you log in, or if, yeah. So
yeah, we could do a
go ahead and do
pop-up
that.
or something.
So something like that, or we can make it clear in the instructions, just so people know, but I think that is the current expectation.
So kind of like a Google Doc, right? That as you edit, it just happens automatically.
Yeah. I also had a couple of ideas on the download page.
Okay.
So it's great to be able to add some custom text. I wonder if we could make that a little fancier, so we could have some formatting or have links or anything more in there to make it stand out a little bit more. Because I think people
like the next steps email, Mark. We're working on some functionality where people will be able to email themselves some reminders of what to do next. So it sounds a little bit like that, where the system, based on the interview that they use and what they checked in that interview, could send, or in this case, you're asking, we're doing both. We're going to display it, but we're also going to give them the option to send it to themselves later on. I wonder if that's what you mean, that when they finish, they get more complete instructions, particularly if there's a next interview or they have to come back after 30 days and do a default, things like that.
Right. Well, that's additional functionality that could also be useful. Like, do you want to send a copy of these instructions to your email or something like that? But I was just thinking something even more basic, because we just did some user testing yesterday where someone got to that page and they still didn't know what to do, even though we said in the interview 10 times, when you get to this next page, click on download your form. So I just want to have another chance where we can just say or once you download your form, your next steps will be found in the instructions, or things like that. And if we could have links in there, that would also be helpful. But just because it's great that we can customize it, but it could get lost in the way it's located on the page, and there's not much of a margin above and below. So by making it, if we can do bold and links, things like that, that might help it stand out. And the other thing, this is just another enhancement, it's great that we can have a survey on that exit page, but if there's a way to make that stand out a little more, I'm not sure the best way to do that. But right now, the Take Our Survey button is under the Quick Tips block. And it's, I don't know if there's a way to make it stand out a little more. I mean, again, that's something we could put in that custom text box. We could say, hey, do this to get started, and don't forget to take our survey. Go look at the, click the button on the right, something like that.
Okay, and we presently just allow you can just do plain text, I guess, in that custom text.
Yeah.
We could do that, but somewhere here, metadata. That's right. Okay, I think I captured here it is, complete an interview text, right? So
right.
You like to be able to have links and bold and other more than just plain text here.
Yeah, that would be super. Thank you.
Okay. This is good. We got a lot of new ideas. What else we have, folks? We have 15 minutes, I think, of time together just to get things on the table.
I wanted to hear about, some of these are definitely pain points for the end users. Yeah. But from, like, when you think about the client, and I know that they're not clients, they may be customers, but let's just use arcane language and call it the client user journey for those of us who help low-income people. On the client journey, from finding the forms to knowing how to use them to finally getting the form downloaded and filed, are there things that this collective group of very experienced people thinks we could do better when they come to the LHI point? We talked about saving and some of those things, but from finding the interview, and we'd have the find forms page and we link to people's maps there. Are there other things that we could do like that maybe we can build into the LHI Chrome to make the forms more findable and to have better interaction with your web page? Because whether it's a Drupal or whether it's a LawHelp or whether it's a private, we interact with all of the web pages out there. Anything there that could be done better, or like give the users more of a chance to find DV forms, find expungement forms?
I don't hear anything.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Then. But we should keep thinking about that, because I do think that, since most people don't know they have a legal problem, then how are they going to find a form?
Right. Yeah, some sort of a meta form that maybe helps people find forms. A passenger kind of a interview that's just for anybody who has no idea where they are. They just want to be led to an appropriate place that's closer to their goals. I don't know. What else we got? Other ideas? Anything totally different? Again, crazy is good. We're not being.
We're not judging.
Not judging. We're just collecting.
Hi, this is Sun again. I have so we're converting to A to J6, and one of the reasons why I'm really delaying a lot of it is because I don't. So we've made a policy decision that for A to J6, it'll convert as a PDF and output as a PDF, which is fine. But I would like it if the end user can actually pick whether or not they want a PDF or a doc or an RTF, whatever, RTF or whatever it is. Only because there are most who will want a PDF, and it does make things a lot easier. But we do have, so I work for the courts. We do have court people where they will email the document to the court user, and then the court employee, and the court employee will go through it and make any changes that are necessary. So I don't want, so in those cases, I would rather that they download it as an RTF and then email it instead of as a PDF. But for, I mean, the majority of the users will be a PDF. But it's if I could give the end user an option, that would be great.
So right after post-assembly, you've generated your document. It's available to you.
So it's like, instead of download your form, it'll be like download the PDF or download the or the Word document or or email or whatever the other options are. That would be really good.
Yeah. Okay, good. We definitely have the technical ability to do that. It's just a matter of adding some user affordances on the front end. But okay.
Also, can I just make a suggestion to whoever said about finding the download your form button? We had gotten a lot of feedback from help centers, and we changed every single last screen of all of our A to J programs so that it goes literally, what does the download your form button look like? And we took a screenshot of LHI, and there are like 3-4 buttons there, and I circled the download your form button, and it has helped. So that's good to know. So they may need a picture clue is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can put pictures right in your A to J or Hot Docs interviews to guide the user to what they will see next.
That's a good idea.
Any new features? Sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. This is Lori again. Well, on the idea of the download or the landing page where you have those buttons of the download, edit, save, or email. One of the things that came up for us was just the order in which those buttons appear, and that it seems a little confusing for users that the download your form and the email your form are not next to each other. They're bookending the choices, but conceptually they serve the same purpose. And these are two different ways of getting your documents. You can either download them or email them. And so I would like to see those two tiles be next to each other, just so it's a little bit more clear that, that they're conceptually the same. And this actually came up when we did a little how-to video. And the narrator was going through describing from left to right what each of the tiles did, and it seemed that's where it really became more obvious to us, like, oh, that's kind of weird that the download your form and the email your form are not next to each other, because they really are just two different ways of doing the same thing.
What do folks think? Do other people have the same reaction as Lori?
I never thought about it, but that's a really good point.
I agree.
Put this green one right over here. Download, email, and then just have put the greens together. I'm hearing a couple votes in your favor, Lori. Anybody object to that idea?
I wonder if it's a second row of buttons, the edit your answers and save your answers, so that you have, download your form. I don't know. You have to test it on people.
Yeah. Any other reactions on that question, on sort of button reallocation movement? They're pretty clean now. I think putting the greens together does have some logic to it.
Mark, now that you're on that screen, getting back to Son's original statement about saving the answers,
Yeah.
that's part of the problem that we are having because we have, when we get into that screen, we have several options in there. Not everybody is aware that after they have already on the previous page clicked to exit and save the answer, they have to click yet again on that orange button in order to actually be able to save. So because they look for the different options, it's very likely that they are not aware they need to click again in order to save, which is one of the problems I've been facing.
You're saying if I now click Save Answers, I have to click again in order for that to happen?
Yeah, no, not in that page. So the problem I'm finding, and this is getting back to the issue of saving answers, that most people do not get why when they go back to their account, they cannot find their saved answers. It's just that the workflow is not straightforward. Once the interview is finished, they can click on exit and save. That just that action of clicking and saving make people believe that by doing that, their answers are already saved. They are not aware that to actually save their answers, once they are on that option screen where they can download, edit, email, or save the answers, they have to click on Save the Answers again, give it a name, and then save it to actually be able to save the answer. So there are many steps involved that are not clear. It's not a straightforward process. And in my opinion, from the feedback that we've been getting for quite some time, that's one of the main issues why people keep complaining about not being able to save the, find their safe answers or what exactly is that they need to do. So just because we were on that screen, I wanted to mention it because for us who know the system, we know, but people who are new to the system, that use it only once or maybe twice, they are not aware of this. So we need to discuss internally how we can simplify the process, the workflow, and make it more straightforward.
Yeah, that's good point. So we need a detailed drill down on that whole process, that workflow.
So can we turn attention to some of the housekeeping stuff I was talking about? So
Sure.
How would people feel if we coded LHI to start deleting interviews that have not been used in 2 years? And the reason 2 years, it is because if you are an advocate, we save your interviews for 12, we save your answers for 12 months, and we send you at the 11th month a reminder that we're going to delete your answer. We would say anywhere from like 18 months to 2 years to make sure that there's nobody in the world that would ever have an answer saved.
Maybe you don't want to.
So how would you? So how would you want this to play out? Because we want to make sure that most of the forms that we have are updated and working well, and those that are not in use, we can presume that they're either outdated and they're just taking space and bandwidth. So how would you want us to go through that tangle with you guys?
This is Sun. Instead of deleting the templates, can you put them into like automatic retirement?
I don't know. We may have options in that, but at the end, we want to also keep our database lean and mean so that the backups and the conversions are not as expensive.
It's just, it seems that there may be value, particularly in an old template that may just have been forgotten and not retired.
Right.
And there may be some, like there may be stuff in there that another programmer may want to get access to. On the other hand,
send notification and let you know, hey, this template has not been used in 18 months or whatever, and we're gonna delete it in the next month if you wanna keep it downloaded to your hard drive. Otherwise, we're gonna delete it. And so if we send the email to the account that uploaded the template, you will have a chance. You will have 30 days to do that. Or are there reasons why people don't download that don't retire templates? Is it a functionality thing that we should be letting you
I think
delete
it's because
5
it doesn't
templates
belong.
in a row?
It doesn't belong to the user, it belongs to the organization. And so like if I ever leave here,
Exactly.
my account wouldn't, I would have to give access to everything that is mine to someone else, which is fine. But I wouldn't take any of it with me. But whoever is taking over will still want to see it. I don't know. I'm fairly good about keeping all of my stuff clean, but I know what you're talking about. Like in the New York workspace, there is a lot of old stuff in there. And that has been used in a really long time. So I guess, I don't know, because it belongs to the organization, I feel weird about just automatically deleting something. And it just
Well, we would send notification, but I mean, if you look at our terms of use, we ask the owners, the organization to.
Yeah, but the owner right now is the user, which is me. The owner isn't the court system, which it should be, but it's under my account, it's under my email. So it's, I don't know, it's a little, I don't know.
Claudia, I think that what Son is trying to say, rather than deleting, even if it is no longer being used, so there's an outdated template, for example, it is still useful for the owner or the organization as a reference to any other template that they would like to develop. So rather than just deleting it, since they don't have the ability to get back to it because it's deleted from the system, set a policy, but instead of deleting the template, it will be archived in a way that they will have access to those archived templates rather than just having deleted.
No, I heard that. I hear what she's saying. The question is, when we back up the database, are we gonna spend effort doing that? And if we ever have to copy the database because we're doing a major code push, are we gonna move the retire? You know what I mean? These are things that seem marginal, but eventually affect not just the length of time it takes, but everything else, the testing and making sure that everything transfer over. And as a resource constrained group, we really hope that the other way to skin this cat would be to put in LHI the capacity to have an owner organization and then figure out, but that would be, like we've talked about this before, so that owner organization gets the notification too. So that whoever the chief person is, as opposed to the developers, because I understand the developers may be doing different decision making. If we created an organization account for the super owner, whoever that is, then you put who that person is, and that's who the emails would go to. But eventually LHI is not, we don't hold ourselves as a storage place. We have never been, and we will never be that, because that's not who we are.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm still unmuted. I think I would like on this point also, if you're able to send notifications out to the LHI, I think developers are the owners of the interviews or the templates, could you not also just like package the interview code and then have them just store it on their like website or somebody's local stuff, so if they do want to bring it back, they can just upload it? And I know this goes back to sort of what I was doing as far as like the user re-uploading their answers. And then that way, if there's any way, if there is an outdated or a template that hasn't been used, they can also get a notification with a list of, these are all the templates you haven't used. It might be time to see if you need an update or maybe confirm that you don't need it anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. We should note that one, Mark. One idea that we had talked about, I think last year, I think it was John Mayer who mentioned making a reminder available so that when the developer uploads a content on behalf of an organization, they put a date, a future date when they want to review. And so LHI basically sends a courtesy email, and they pick the date. It could be 6 months before the legislative language goes into effect, or 6 months before they finish their Spanish translations, whatever it is. They can pick what the event is. And then LHI would send an advance notice, hey, you asked us to send you a reminder to review this interview. Here is your reminder. And that way people would know what they haven't been looking at. Hopefully it triggers some updates or cleanup. Oh, like, yeah, we're not using that form anymore. Let me get rid of it. Or yeah, I have it and I just have to get the last feedback and do the final changes. That kind of thing.
Yep, we have that basic idea in here. Anything else, folks? I think we're almost near the time, our allotted time, Claudia. So I just wanted to fish for anything totally different. Anybody have something they've been dying to say but haven't had a chance to say?
I love DocAssemble interview support. Sort of. I don't like the idea of having to support figure out what to do with a DocAssemble answer file, but so I've only used that for the interviews that are one stop where they're not coming back, and so I'd sort of love to use the DocAssemble interview with the LHI backend and support it that way. So
okay, wow, that's a good idea. So just like we have A2J hot docs, and then we also support DocAssemble type interviews right within the LHI world. Okay. Back to you, Claudia. We can stop or keep going. It's up to you.
No, I think we're good. We're gonna review this, put them in order. And Mark, do we want to still send a quick survey based on this for those that didn't join the call?
Yeah, I think it's probably, it worked well last year. We gave people a chance to react and actually help us prioritize these after the fact. So we'll probably do that.
Okay, so that's gonna be the plan, but it's, we're not gonna close that survey until next year, so because we know that everybody's gonna be really busy, but this is gonna be the basis.
Will you be including the uncompleted things from last year?
I guess we should, huh? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and as always, we'll tackle the ones that we'll tackle as much as we can, but there may be some that are like super huge high lifts for which we don't have funding, and we will have to either raise it or work with some of you to raise it, etc. But this really helps with our prioritization, whichever way you say that. So I put in the chat the GoToWebinar registration for the working with forms that are transactional through time. And so I hope that some of you join us. I think that getting the full process from either response or pleading all the way to the end, or even from demand letter all the way to judgment, and how to do that in an elegant way, it's something that I've always hoped we can get to in LHI rather than just having a majority of initial filings. And so we're gonna have the speakers, all of them are working on that in different ways, in different states, from different types of organizations. So hopefully some of you can join, and maybe some of you also are doing this and can share in the call some of your techniques, or talk about what we could do system-wide with that. So join us for that, and that's gonna be the last month of the last call of the year. We'll reconvene right after the ITC conference.
Great, thanks everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.